What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This? This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, then we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 and either build them or fix them depending on how they rank. Now today is a great, fun day to be able to build a Moon Druid, which is kind of the epitome of Druids, which we talked about earlier this week. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you guys are looking forward to my take on the Moon Druid. But before we get into that, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. As you can see, most people who watch this channel are not subscribed, so please don't be one of those people. Help us to reach our goal of 2,000 by the end of this year. We could do that today with your help if you would share the video with your friends, and of course, click the bell so you're notified when new videos are uploaded. So the Moon Druid is the only one that's gotten a 10 out of 10 of all of our Druids. We actually haven't even had a 9 yet, but this one went ahead and just blew us out of the water. It's just really good, taking the wild shape feature and just absolutely cranking it to its limit. And that is what we're going to be really focusing on today. I think this is an absolutely insanely good subclass, and it is just so fun to do. I hope you guys are looking forward to this build. So without any further ado, let's jump right in. Starting off, as always, with our race. We are going to go very boring again. We did this last week, I know, but Variant Human. Variant Human is, of course, a really great bring when it comes to having a feat at level 1 and being able to save all of your slots for your ASIs later on down the road. It's just too good to pass up here because we need all of those ASIs as much as we possibly can. For our feat this time around, I'm actually going to go with Fey Touched. Now, Fey Touched is a really great spell, giving us access to Misty Step, which of course won't help us when we're in wild shape, but it could help us to get into a decent position to turn into something later, or it could get us out of a situation that whenever we dropped wild shape we ended up in. That's kind of more along the lines of what I'm thinking, is once our wild shape has dropped, we're kind of like surrounded because everybody wanted to dogpile the big wolf or whatever you're turned into. And so this can help you get out of there without taking a ton of damage. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. And then we also get one other first level spell from a couple of different schools of magic. My favorite pick here is the Bless spell. Bless is absolutely fantastic for helping us when we are in wild shape to be able to hit more reliably and to pass saving throws. That's one thing that's really, really nice, is that we gain all the physical things from the class, but we keep our mental stuff. That's kind of what makes this so strong, right? Because a lot of these beasts have really good physical stats but not good mental stats, and that's where we can kind of shore that up a little bit. So this will help us with all of our saving throws, so that can help us against those pesky fireballs that may have caused us a lot of problems before. This could save us. Other options are Hex, but I'm not huge on the Hex spell for this one, especially since it is a bonus action, and so that kind of conflicts with our whole thing of bonus action wild shaping. So I prefer not to do that, but it's there. And Silvery Barbs. Of course, you can't use this when you're in wild shape, but it's there. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about having this on a druid. I just don't think it really fits the theme, but it's there if you want it. So consider it. I probably would just stick with Bless for this build. I think that's probably your best way to go. As far as stats go, we are of course using our modified standard array as always, like we do on this channel. And that is a 17, 15, 13, 12, 10, and 8. If you use rolled stats or regular standard array or point buy or some other method that is whatever you use at your table, great, good for you. Go ahead and just use what I use today and just use the focuses of what I use, right? Use the top 3 skills as the ones you focus on, and don't really worry about the bottom 3 skills, and just adapt your system to that. That is the most efficient way to do it, because I can't predict what everybody does at their table. It's all different, so what are you gonna do? As far as what I'm doing today, we are going to go ahead and put a 17 in Wisdom, a 15 Constitution, 13 Dexterity, 12 Strength, 10 Charisma, and 8 Intelligence. We of course get 2+1s from our racial and 1+1 from our half feat, which is really good. Fey Touch does give us 1 in a mental stat, so we're going to of course put that in wisdom, and then we're going to take our 2 from our racial and go ahead and put that in constitution and dexterity, giving us an 18, 16, and 14 respectively. As far as our equipment goes, just grab the best armor you can. We're working up to some non-metal medium armor if we can get it. Again, talk to your DM about homebrewing some possible medium armor out of dragon scales or Umber Hulk shell or purple worm shell or whatever, just using nature to your advantage. A wooden shield is also pretty nice, but not necessary, because, you know, we're not going to be using a shield while we're in wild shape. So, you know, it's up to you to help you save your butt when you're outside of wild shape, but not necessary really. And then of course a druidic focus, which could be a quarterstaff, which I recommend for shillelagh bonking. If we are not in wild shape, it gives you another option. I probably would stick with spells for outside of wild shape on this one, because we're really not going to be doing a whole lot to boost our quarterstaff damage. If you wanted to see the frontliner kind of druid with the quarterstaff, that was last week's video with the Circle of the Land. Make sure to check that out up in the icon above. That was a really fun build. I really liked that one. But yeah, we focused on the shillelagh and booming blade and cloud kill and a bunch of really cool druid stuff. And it's a lot of fun. So check that video out if you haven't already. And so yeah, that is all for our equipment. So let's start taking some levels. All right, level 1, here we go. We are not starting off as a druid. Similarly to last week, we are going to be starting off as a fighter. I know it's weird being a fighter as a druid, and honestly it's also weird not going 20 levels of Moon Druid. Going 20 levels of Moon Druid is probably your optimal play here, to be able to not put off your progression through your wild shapes. I personally think it's worth it. It's just me, but there are people who are in the camp of you can only do 20 levels of Moon Druid and that is the only way to do it. And that's fine. That's perfectly valid. That is absolutely a fine argument. So I hear you. You're definitely on the right track. And I have several other options in our honorable mentions, which comes at the very end of the video, of course. So we're going to start as a fighter. And as far as our fighting style goes, I normally would go with something like dueling or defense or something like that, but that is not really what we're looking for in this kind of a build. If we're focusing on our wild shape damage, you would think maybe something like the unarmed fighting style, but actually that doesn't help us here at all, because our attacks coming off of our wild shape are not considered compatible with that feature. Yes, you could like headbutt somebody and that would count, but to me that's not worth taking a fighting style for. I would rather get something more out of my fighting style. Instead, however, we are going to go with Superior Technique. Superior Technique gives us, of course, access to just a little bit of the power that is the Battlemaster Fighter, which is really fun. And of course, we get to pick one of the many Battlemaster maneuvers from the big long list. Personally, I'm going to go with Fainting Attack. There are a ton of options on here that require it to be a hit with a weapon. I'm throwing all of those out the window because we're not using a weapon if we're in the form of a wolf or a bear or whatever. So all of that stuff doesn't help us. So I'm looking for something that is just the next time you make an attack roll. And Fainting Attack fits the bill most of all, in my opinion. Of course, making it easier for you to hit and then dealing extra damage equal to what you roll on the die. And this does come back on a short rest, so you are going to be wanting some naps all the time, which is of course really fun. We also get Second Wind, which is a great little heal as a bonus action. You can do it when in wild shape, of course, which is also really good, on top of using spell slots to do this. So this is basically a freebie way to do it without burning a spell slot. So I would probably use this before I start burning spell slots, but having options for healing is always a good thing, and I would definitely use this every time you possibly can. At Druid 1, we of course get Druidic and spell casting here. Yeah, we're going straight to Druid 1. I know I'm putting things off one level. I don't want to put them off any longer. So we're moving on right now and taking Druidic, which is the secret language of Druids. You can write things in trees and sticks and mud and whatever you want to do. Of course, you are the only ones that can read it, you and other druids. And of course, you can speak it too if you want to be your own little, secret society. You also get spell casting. So I'm just going to name some of my favorites here. For cantrips, Druidcraft, Guidance, Shillelagh, and Thornwhip are all really good. As far as spells go, Absorb Elements is a maybe for me, just because if we're going to be in Wild Shape, we're never going to use it. But this could be for saving your skin when you're outside of Wild Shape, so definitely consider it. As far as others, Cure Wounds, Entangle, Fairy Fire, Goodberry, and Healing Word are all fantastic options. At Druid 2, we of course get our bread and butter, Wild Shape, and this allows us to turn into the fantastical, amazing creatures that we get to turn into as a Moon Druid. It feels good. We're only level 3, so it's fine. It's not like we put everything off super late, so we're already doing our thing, so it's all good. We're just one level behind. It's all good. We also get Wild Companion, which you're probably not going to use very much at all, but it would allow you to create a familiar, which would be good if we didn't need all of our uses of Wild Shape. So probably wouldn't use that very much, if at all, on this Druid. But it was actually our main source last week. So it just depends on what kind of build you want, but this week probably not going to use it. We also get Combat Wild Shape and Circle Forms. Of course, if you missed Tuesday's video where we talked about this in depth, I'll put that up in the icon above for you right there. We talked about this a lot and just how good it is moving this to a bonus action and being able to heal and being able to go with a lot stronger creatures. Of course, right now, a direwolf is going to be our best option. So make sure to work something into your backstory that you know what a direwolf looks like. And that way you can go ahead and transform into it, which is really, really powerful at this level. At Druid 3, we get no features, but we do get second level spells, and we get things like Flaming Sphere, which is a really nice concentration spell actually for while you're in Wild Shape. I personally really like this one for this Druid. I don't normally recommend this one, but I think it's nice here. Heat Metal, of course, is really good. Hold Person, Lesser Restoration, Moonbeam, Pass Without Trace, and Spike Growth. Can't go wrong with any of those. Druid 4. We get our first ASI or feat outside of our free feat at the beginning, and I'm just going to go ahead and take Warcaster. Warcaster is going to help us to be able to concentrate on our spells easier, and that is absolutely huge. It also will, of course, allow us to hold our quarterstaff and our shield and be able to do all of the fun things. We can make attacks of opportunity with spells, which is great. There's a lot to love there, right? And I think it's an absolute must bring on this one. And we, of course, also can now use creatures with a swim speed. Our CR limit has not changed. It's still a 1 on this build, but we can swim, which is really, really good. At Druid 5, we get no features, but we do get 3rd level spells. And so Conjure Animals, it's a thing. Definitely consider it. It's a really strong spell. Erupting Earth, Revivify, and Water Walk are all really good here actually. At Druid 6, we get Primal Strike, and this allows us to deal magical damage with our wild shapes, and we now have an improvement of CR2 beasts, which is amazing, right? So now we can be a giant elk, or a big old hunter shark, or whatever it is we want to be. Polar bear, also a really great option. These are all fantastic brings and really boost your power up quite a bit, and it's fun, and you're magical now, so it doesn't matter if the enemies you're facing have resistance to non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, because they can suck it when they take a hit from all of your powerful creations, which is really, really cool. Then at Druid 7, we get 4th level spells, no features, but that's okay. We do get access to Charm Monster here, Fire Shield, Polymorph, and Wall of Fire, all fantastic options. I absolutely love those. And then it's here at level 9 where we realize that maybe we need to go back to our roots for just a minute and figure out where it is we came from, what got us here today. We're taking Fighter 2 so that we can pick up Action Surge. Now that we have access to CR2 beasts, now that we have access to Polymorph and Wall of Fire, now that we have access to magical strikes, all of these things, it's going to be great to be able to Action Surge with beasts and very soon elementals, and it's just ridiculous once you start doing stuff like that. So having Action Surge is absolutely awesome, and so we're going to take that and we're going to go right back to Druid and we're going to stay there the rest of the way. Spoilers, there you go. Druid 8, we get an ASI or a feat, and I'm just going to bump Wisdom. We're just going to max that out at 20, which is great. We also can now use creatures with a flying speed, which is good. Again, there's not really many options at this level to be able to fly. You're probably going to have to CR down in order to fly, but it can be really good for scouting. I mean, an owl is still a really great scouter at low level, just as it is at high level. So definitely still use that feature. At Druid 9, we get no features, but we do get access to CR3 beasts, which is great. So if you can do an owl bear, then go ahead and do it. Now would be the time. So talk to your DM. I think it's great. For 5th level spells, Cone of Cold, Greater Restoration, and Mass Cure Wounds, all really, really fantastic options. At Druid 10, we get Elemental Wild Shape. This is going to allow us to be able to turn into creatures that we should not be allowed to turn into, at least not for a while, if we're going just by the CR ranking. But yeah, this is a huge jump in power. Yes, it's both uses of our Wild Shape, but it's worth it. Oh my gosh, it's worth it. The amount of damage you can deal with a fire elemental, or the amount of defensive features that you have with an earth elemental, are just off the charts here. And it's absolutely fantastic to be able to have this much HP, to have these resistances, to just be able to just be an absolute menace out there on the battlefield. It's just ridiculously strong. At Druid 11, we get no features, but we get 6th level spells. Things like heal are really, really nice. At Druid 12, we of course get an ASI or feat. I'm bumping Constitution. We're going up as far as we can go with this. It's really good. Having extra HP is always great. Having a better check when it comes to holding concentration is always going to be really good. And we get access to CR4 beasts here as well, which is really, really good on top of everything that we're already getting. At Druid 13, no features, but we do get one of my favorite spells out there, and that is Draconic Transformation. So we now can be a dragon elemental, which is stupid, and I love it, and I want to do it all the time. So yeah, it's kind of nuts when you start combining these features, but it's really, really good, and I love it so much. Firestorm and Symbol are also really good options here. At Druid 14, we get 1,000 forms, so we have Alter Self anytime we want. It's whatever, it's flavor, it's cool, but I mean, it's the least of what we can do. Honestly, it's not a factor when it comes to everything else that we're looking at doing. At Druid 15, we get no features, but we do get to go up to CR5 beasts, and we get 8th level spells. Things like Animal Shapes, Earthquake, Feeble Mind, and Sunburst are all really compelling options. At Druid 16, we're going to cap our Constitution at 20, which feels awesome to be able to do that by here at level 18. It is really late, but I mean, it's part of it. You know, we took ASIs at pretty much every chance we could, and it was worth it. And I think it's really, really strong. At Druid 17, we get 9th level spells, and basically everything but Storm of Vengeance is on the table here. Take them all if you want to. They're all really good. And finally, Druid 18, level 20, Timeless Body, which I don't really care about. It's just going to make you lonely. And Beast spells, which I very much care about. And this will allow you to cast quite a few of your spells while you're in Wild Shape, which is huge. And you can also get access to the Mammoth now at CR6. So that is our build. Let me know what you think down below. Yes, it's simple. And yes, it's not a straight 20 levels of Moon Druid, which is the most common recommendation, right? I still think it's strong. Being able to action surge while in Draconic Transformation and as an elemental is kind of nuts. And I just love the ability to also have extra healing on top of what you have, to be able to not have to necessarily use your spell slots up all the time. Gives you a little bit of a buffer there, and I really like that. I think that's really, really fantastic. As far as our honorable mentions go, I have a few. Number one is the Ranger. The first one here is actually the Beastmaster. We turn into a beast and we have a beast friend. And if you're really looking for like sustained damage over time, I really think that this is your best option. And the reason I say that is because when you turn into, once you hit your elemental level, you really don't necessarily need to go much higher unless you're really focusing on all the other CR beasts or specifically focusing on those top level spells. Really, the Beastmaster being able to deal as much damage as the Beast can is really going to be your best option for dealing a bunch of sustained damage. So if that's your goal, I would probably go at least 3 levels into Beastmaster Ranger, and you could even go 5 levels and pick up the extra attack feature as well, which is really good on top of everything. Swarm Keeper is also a really good bring here, just for a little bit of extra damage and for some maneuverability, either getting you out of melee or moving someone else 15 feet away from you on a failed strength save. Those are all really good. And of course, Swarm Keeper, you're into animals and there's bees, so I mean, right, it all makes sense. And then Cleric. The Peace and Twilight Clerics are really if you want to power game this, to be honest, because let's be real, the Twilight Cleric's aura is ridiculous, and the fact that you can now have dark vision is really good, because this dark vision would work while you are in wild shape, even if the animal doesn't have it, because it is a class feature, not a racial feature. So it's really strong, and you can still share it before you transform, or I guess you could probably still share it when you transform, but that's a little strange. And the other is the Peace Cleric. The Peace Cleric, of course, would negate the need for the Bless spell. So in that case, you could choose something different. But yeah, having access to its first level ability and even to be able to run around without any opportunity attacks and heal people up is also really good, especially if you have something with a really high walking speed. That is kind of insane, right? You take something that's really fast, then you can run up to your walking speed and just heal people as an animal. I think that's also really flavorful and really powerful. So definitely consider that as well. And finally, the Barbarian. The Barbarian is just awesome. Having Rage while in wild shape. Yes, you can't concentrate on spells, but the ability to have resistance while you are in your form of your beast is going to effectively double your HP. Yes, you get less use out of this when you are in your form of a elemental because you've already got stuff like this, but it's still really effective, and I would definitely consider using it. As far as other races go, the Satyr was one of my top ones, especially with the magic resistance. Magic resistance is going to be hugely helpful while you're in wild shape. Like I said at the beginning, your physical traits are going to be pretty well taken care of, but when they're targeting you on the mental side or from charisma, really, or on the very rare chance that you get an intelligence save or anything like that, this would help out a lot. So I think that Satyr is really nice. And also the Yuan-Ti Pureblood before Monsters of the Multiverse nerfed it. The Volo's Guide version of the Yuan-Ti is really strong here, giving us a lot of the same options. And of course, we would have to change around some of our stats that we did at the beginning, but overall, really strong option here for this build. And as far as feats go, Crusher, Piercer, and Slasher are all really interesting options here, because it allows you to get a bonus in a stat and you get a bunch of little bonuses, and you're really going to be only dealing bludgeoning, piercing, slashing when you are in your wild shape forms. The problem is that this can change depending on which form you're at whichever CR you're at. So you may be really good to go with Crusher at a certain level, and then once you upgrade, then you would rather have Piercer, or you would rather have Slasher, or you're with or you're in a wild shape that has both, which is often the case. You'll have something that is like a gore attack that is piercing, and you'll have a stomp attack, which is bludgeoning, and you're only going to get a bonus to one of them. So that can get a little weird too, but it's an option. And of course, the Tough Feat. The Tough Feat, of course, allows you to be that much more unkillable, which is always a great thing. So that is all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you thought down below of this build. Next week, we call all of the animals home, and you better believe we're going to be discussing Conjure Animals in a lot of detail with the Circle of the Shepherd Druid. If you're looking forward to that, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Until then, stay safe out there, stay healthy, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.